everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Oh, excellent pause. Well done. That was fantastic work by you. And as always, your best work comes when you're not talking. So good job.
Not that I paused, I just forgot the line. And then I remembered just in time to please everybody. So, Tom, thank you for being here. Thank me for being here. Thank you all for being here. As we're going to not finish up, we're going to continue some Michigan listener questions, but also as it relates to some Penn State stuff. And so we're going to continue on that for this episode and some really thought-provoking stuff here, Tom, which is exactly where we excel. When you really make us use our brains, really, I don't think anybody does it any gooder than us.
No one uses our brains in particular better than us. I guess that's true. So, I mean, that's something. And you know what? I'll take it. That's fine. We're going to start with one from @GoBlueHarbaugh. When Michigan played Penn State, the general consensus was, finally, Michigan is playing a good team. When Michigan beat the brakes off Penn State, the narrative became, Penn State is no good. Then Penn State beat the brakes off of Minnesota. So my question is, how good is Penn State?
Tom, I think Michigan is finally running into the problem that Ohio State has run into in the past, where you beat a team that is ranked so badly that you make them look bad. And so then they are diminished. So it's like sometimes a close win is more impressive to people than a blowout, because that close win is like, oh, you beat a really good team. Whereas if you blow that team out, you have just diminished that team in front of everybody. Like, oh, you lose like that, you can't be any good. But how good are they? I just think Michigan was not a good matchup for Penn State. Like Michigan and Manny Diaz was not a good matchup for his defense. Basically, that is not a working matchup. But I don't think Penn State was ever with number 10 or whatever. Like that's a product of their schedule. And right now, nobody in the Big Ten has played really an interesting schedule, especially non-conference. So, Penn State's best win, maybe at Auburn, that sort of thing. Like, okay. But I don't think that they're no good. Beating Minnesota would have been more impressive if Tanner Morgan had played. I don't think the outcome is any different. I just think Penn State is a decent team with flaws. Sometimes those flaws don't come out as much. Sometimes some teams can't expose those flaws. Michigan exposed their flaws.
No doubt. And that's what good teams do, because Penn State is, to me, Penn State's like a number 15 team in the country, something like that. Because they went down to Auburn and just laid waste to Auburn. And Auburn's not good, but when you have, a number 15 Ole Miss or a number 15 LSU going into Auburn and just laying waste to Auburn, it's, wow, this team must be incredible, because look at what they just did to a very good Auburn team. And to do it on the road, oh boy, that's incredible. And then, Penn State does, and it's like, well, yeah, but Auburn's terrible, so it doesn't matter. And then, I'm sure you will hear someone will go into Auburn, and, Auburn has won enough that Brian Harson's not fired yet, so Auburn's not the worst team in the country. And, I think Penn State did what they were supposed to do against a Minnesota team that was playing without Chris Autman-Bell, without Tanner Morgan. I mean, that's what you were supposed to do against a team that's missing a couple of its key players. If you were a good but not necessarily spectacular team, that's exactly what it is. And, this is like every year we go into the NCAA tournament, we talk about how, all these games, you got to look at the matchups, and these games are about matchups and not just, the top line stats. And Penn State Michigan does all the stuff that Penn State is not good at. Michigan didn't have to throw the ball because Penn State has good corners. Well, if you can just bully Penn State up front and run the ball all over them, then you kind of take those corners out of the game. And that's basically what they did. And, they have a good enough pass rush and a good enough defensive front that they could lock down that Penn State run game and get pressure in Sean Clifford's face and make Sean Clifford get the ball out and have to make pressure, decisions under pressure. That's not something he does well. So, yeah, Michigan was a very bad matchup for Penn State. I think we're going to see this weekend Ohio State beats Penn State. Ohio State might not beat Penn State by as many points as Michigan did, but, it's in Happy Valley. It's not at home, all that stuff. And, some of the stuff that Ohio State does well maybe plays a little bit better into what Penn State is good at. So, maybe it's not quite as good of a matchup, but, you can't. How many years have we seen people try and do the transitive score thing? Like, well, Michigan beat this team by 25, and Ohio State only beat this team by 17. And so, therefore, Michigan is 8 points better than Ohio State. And it's like, that's not. There are plenty and plenty and plenty of examples of that not actually being how things play out. So, I think Penn State's good. I don't think Penn State's great, but Michigan did to Penn State what a great team would do. And I think Michigan is in that great team conversation this year. Next one, we're going to do a twofer at Tony_Lisa13. After this weekend, any concerns about establishing the run for Ohio State? And from at Hanson Brothers 9, do Ohio State's struggles in the run game against Iowa concern you about their ability to run on Michigan? And Tony, I think you have to be at least a little concerned, and I don't know. I think you look at what Iowa did and how Ohio State sort of struggled to respond in the first half. And I know that the short field thing has gotten brought up a bunch, and I know that, are both running backs at 100% right now? Maybe, maybe not. But I think there are some causes for concern there. I don't expect Ohio State to run for, 40-something yards or whatever they did against Iowa. I think it'll be better. They're going to do a lot better than that against Michigan. But I do think there's some cause for concern there. And, Ohio State's going to have to be able to run the ball some. They can't, they don't need to run it for 400 yards, but they're going to need to be able to run the ball some to remain balanced. I think they're going to be able to throw the ball against Michigan a decent amount, but you got to be able to be balanced. Otherwise, you get yourself into trouble.
Yeah, I don't think you can be anything other than concerned because you saw them get shut down like they did, 30 carries for 66 yards. And it's not like there are 6 sacks that, take away a whole bunch of 60 yards or something like that. This is just a group that couldn't run the ball. And Ryan Day talked on Tuesday about some of the reasons for that. The offensive line wasn't necessarily getting the job done. Kevin Wilson saying that as well. So those guys are going to be challenged. And really, we can say, will this team be able to run against Michigan, or is there a concern there? I think the concern shows up this weekend against Penn State as well. Like, is the blueprint out there? Did Iowa show some things where Ohio State has some issues if you pressure the run game, and do you if you're more aggressive up front, does that change what they're able to do, or does Ohio State continue to simply, we're just going to continue to do this because eventually it will break? Because that is one of Ohio State's mantras, like, we will do this and eventually it will break. But if you can hold up, then it never breaks and they just continue to run into a wall. So I think there is a concern there. But seeing Michigan run for 413 yards against Penn State, if Penn State is able to hold Ohio State to, 120 or 130, to me, that's concerning. And yes, you do have some banged up running backs, and that's fine. But at some point, the offensive line needs to start winning. You run just as much 12 personnel as anybody else. You run 13 personnel out there. So at some point, you need to reestablish what we thought this running game was, which was effective, which was 240 yards here and 195 yards there. And it was never, this year, it was never like, 66 yards, what's wrong? And I think certainly the health, because, Mayan Williams wasn't Mayan Williams, and Travion Henderson was starting to hit his stride before he hurt his leg against Michigan State, and that was 2 weeks ago at this point. So they've had some time to get healthy, but I don't think they are there yet. Maybe they are for Penn State. But if you give up 400 yards rushing to Michigan, how healthy do these guys need to be to be able to rush for 185, to be able to rush for 5.5 yards to carry, something like that? I think there are concerns in it. As in terms of concerns against Michigan, yeah, until I see them running it consistently for 2 or 3 weeks, there's going to be concerns. I do think Iowa's discipline defensively is better than Michigan's, so I don't know that it's a fair comparison between the two defenses just yet, though.
Well, and Iowa was doing a lot of stuff, being very aggressive at the line of scrimmage, and you saw them playing some cover zero in third and short kind of situations. And I think what I really kind of want to see is Ohio State answering the bell this weekend. And if Penn State tries to do some of the same stuff as Iowa did, which I would assume that they will, because if you saw someone do something that really worked against an offense that had really not been slowed down before, well, you think you would be smart enough to try and do some of the same things, right? So let's see what Ohio State's counterpunch is. Does Ohio State have a counterpunch either schematically or just a block them up better kind of counterpunch where the stuff that worked against them last week doesn't work this week? That I think would be the most significant thing, is if Ohio State shows, okay, it wasn't great last week, but now we've sort of addressed those problems. Yeah, it's against a different team, but Penn State's defensive line is not terrible. And I think they have I would be surprised if they got held to 110, 120 yards rushing this week. That would just like you said, I think that would be a red flag to me that, hey, there are some continuing issues here. And, for a team that has talked for a year about wanting to prove itself and toughness and being able to run the ball and, when it's 3rd and 2, we need, and everyone knows in the stadium knows we're going to run it. We would need to be able to run it anyway. If you're going to preach that stuff, you can't have games like last week. And, you especially can't have multiple games like you had last week. So I think last week during the post-game show, I talked about the fact that I didn't think it was a particularly great day for Ohio State. And that was one of the reasons why. And it's, it's weird to say that when it's 54-10, but I think you saw some chinks in the armor that you had not necessarily seen before. And this is going to be a very big week to see how many of them, have they been able to address those, or are those going to be issues moving forward? And if those are issues moving forward, that is probably good news for Michigan. Speaking of things that did not go great for Ohio State last week, from @McSugarCone, any sense as to what's really wrong with JSN? Maybe sit him until Michigan at this point. And Tony, Ryan Day was very definitive again on Tuesday after being pretty definitive after the game on Saturday. What did Ryan Day have to say about Jackson Smith-Njigba?
Oh, no injury there, but, they'll continue to monitor, which, if there's no injury, but we'll continue to monitor, meaning they're still working him back from the pitch count. And it was interesting to hear Ryan Day talk about it, how they have pitch counts with him, like every physical thing he does in practice or throughout the week, like you're only allowed to do this many. And they just really, really ramp it up. Or it's incremental and it's really compartmentalized, and it's very specific, and they will continue to ramp it up. But watching him come off the field, I don't buy it. Now, that doesn't mean anything is wrong with him that wasn't before, that, seeing him lift his leg up didn't look like his old hamstring injury. Now, that could just be anything that he would play through normally. And so now every time we just watch him, we're, eagle-eyed, trying to see, oh gosh, now it's this. Oh, looks like his shoulder's dipped a little. What's wrong with the shoulder? Like, you're hyper-focused on him right now. And so what may be a limp for him would be a limp for anybody else, and then they would be out there the next series. But he's got this pitch count, so we're all more in tune to him not being out there. But I'm not going to be surprised to not see him out there this week. I know Ryan Day said that he's on track to play, but they'll continue to evaluate. And in terms of sitting him until Michigan, no, I don't think you sit him unless he can't play until then. I still think you need to ramp him up and get him ready to go well in advance of that. And that's why they're starting now, 20 snaps this past week. Maybe it's 25 until you've got the 40 or the 50 that you're looking for.
Yeah, if you're going to take Ryan Day at face value, then he should be back and he should be playing more. And Day didn't give you an exact number. He was asked about a specific number for this weekend and didn't give an exact number. So, you'd figure 20 to 30, something like that, because I think he ended up really at like 22 snaps last week. So, being in the 30 range this year, assuming he really is healthy, that seems like that should be about where you end up, because by the time you get to Michigan, you're going to want him in that 40 to 50 kind of snap range. So that's, that's the game where you're really going to need him. You might need him this weekend against Penn State if he's healthy, but you really need him against Michigan. And I recognize that we're all being overly attentive to his health right now and that we're paying a lot of attention. But just, you look at body language and you read motions and stuff. He's not, the way he came off the field, he very clearly is not 100%. Now, no football player is 100% this time of year, but still it was kind of noticeable how not 100% he was. There are other guys who are not 100% on this team right now that we know about that you don't necessarily notice that as much. So again, I'm with you. I would not be surprised if, something between now and then happens and then he can't play on Saturday. And, has that been the case the whole time? I don't know. Maybe something happened between now and then, but yeah, Ryan Day has a tendency to be not 100% forthright about every injury at every moment, and has very consistently, basically openly said that he's not going to talk about injuries very much. So, is this just gamesmanship and he knows he's not going to play and they're just going to keep Penn State worrying because, they view this as a game where the talent is equated? Maybe, but yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I'm not going to be shocked if we don't see Jackson Smith-Njigba on Saturday, but I'm not going to be shocked if we see him if we do see him playing. So I guess more to come. We'll all find out together later this week. Next one from @TheCTFoster. The scariest thing for Ohio State is a team that can pass the ball consistently well. Can you talk about the development of J.J. McCarthy as a passer throughout the season so far and the overall quality of his receiving options, both wide and out of the backfield? So I feel, Tony, like maybe we should talk about this, and then we should also talk about Penn State, since this is Penn State week. So we should probably answer the same question for the Penn State game. I'll start with J.J. McCarthy. He has been, he's improved as a passer, I think, but he's still not there 100%, and they rely on his legs a lot more. We had another question that we'll see if we get to it on this show or the next one about, what would happen if Michigan had C.J. Stroud, and I think the offense would look very different if Michigan had C.J. Stroud, but I don't know if that would fit what Jim Harbaugh wants to do as much as J.J. McCarthy does. J.J. McCarthy feels like he's a guy who's kind of in the right spot because he does not have to throw the ball downfield all that much in this Michigan offense. And they have him kind of doing things that he can do. He can make plays with his legs. He can extend plays with his legs. But he throws a lot of balls at the line of scrimmage, 5 yards downfield, maybe 10 yards downfield, and that's about it. Most weeks he's throwing like 2-3 balls more than 10 yards downfield. So I think, the great question then is that they don't trust J.J. McCarthy to throw the ball downfield, or that they don't want to throw the ball downfield because they want to, they think they can just keep the chains moving by, throwing short, consistent, reliable passes and having their skill guys make plays. Because out of the backfield, Corum and Donovan Edwards, those guys are great. Then their tight ends are good, consistent playmakers. The wide receivers are okay. Are you blown away by the Michigan wide receivers? Because to me, it's like Ronnie Bell is really, really good. And then like Cornelius Johnson will do something sometimes, and A.J. Henning's good for one play a game, and Andrell Anthony catches one pass a game. And it's just, and maybe this is just watching the Ohio State wide receiver unit all the time, but does the Michigan wide receiver unit really wow you?
Nobody scares you. And there should be somebody. Now, they can all do something, but even Roman Wilson is maybe the fastest player in the Big Ten, but he averages, he'll have games of 2 catches for 14 yards or 3 for 26. And so the way they use these guys certainly doesn't scare you. Now, you can't sleep on them, but I was looking through, I think they've got maybe 6 100-yard games between them, and 3 of them belong to Ronnie Bell, 3 belong to Cornelius Johnson. Andrell Anthony may have had one last year. We had the big game as a true freshman. But really, these guys can also, Andrell Anthony can go 3 weeks without being heard from. And the same can be said for Roman Wilson, where it's just a catch or 1 or 2 catches here. There's really even Ronnie Bell is averaging 5 catches a game because there's not a heavy load of throws. And J.J. McCarthy, talking about him, he's averaging 9 yards an attempt, which is 3rd in the Big Ten. He's completing 77% of his passes, which tells you how short those passes are. And we've talked in the past on Michigan Monday where almost like half of the passing yards are after the catch are yak yards after catch. And it's because those passes are short, and the downfield stuff, he's missed on some. And what I haven't seen, which I think we will see this week from Penn State, you don't see a bunch of 50-50 balls. It's usually he's taking shots in one-on-one situations where maybe the safety isn't there to help, and it's not a 50-50 ball because it's overthrown. So, there's not an opportunity for one guy to catch it, let alone two. But, I don't think anybody there scares you. You can't take them lightly. I think you just have to show them respect. But there's no, would Julian Fleming be their number one option?
I think there's a pretty good chance Julian Fleming would be the number one option. Now, can J.J. McCarthy get Julian Fleming the ball downfield the way C.J. Stroud gets them the ball downfield? That's kind of a whole separate conversation. It feels like Julian Fleming's skill set might make him better suited for the Ohio State offense than the Michigan offense. But, Julian Fleming, I guess, has had some shorter catch and run kind of touchdowns, so maybe he works for both of them. But, I think you look at the Michigan unit from top to bottom, and I think there's a decent argument to be made that any of Ohio State's top 4 wide receivers would be the number one wide receiver on Michigan's unit. And, if they're not number one, then they're certainly number 2.
What do you think Marvin Harrison does in that offense? Is it still just 5 catches a game for like 70 yards, 60 yards? Because it's just bootleg, throw it to the sticks, that sort of thing with them, or do they throw it up? Remember how they used to throw it up to Nico Collins and guys like that, and just go and get it. And that's not McCarthy yet. I don't know that they allow him to do that. Like Cade McNamara has thrown stuff up. We know John O'Corn threw stuff up, and of course, Shea Patterson. Those guys would just good luck, go get it. And really, J.J. McCarthy hasn't done that. Maybe he's too careful. Maybe they're not letting him. Maybe he's like, I don't need to throw it up for grabs. I can pinpoint and go wherever I want, or I can't throw it up for grabs because all of my routes are 6 yards downfield.
Well, and go back to Nico Collins. What was the question? When we were doing Michigan Monday when Nico Collins was at Michigan, how many times do you think I said, conservatively, how many times do you think I said they should throw the ball to Nico Collins more because he's really good and he's throw the ball downfield and take a shot and let him go make a play? It felt like we said that on every single show, every single week, and they never really did it. And it feels like if you put Marvin Harrison on that team, J.J. McCarthy's a better quarterback with Marvin Harrison as one of his wide receivers, but also I don't think they're taking advantage of Marvin Harrison nearly as much as Ohio State does. They don't. That is not Jim Harbaugh's mindset. Jim Harbaugh and Brian Day both played quarterback in college, and it was only 15 years apart or so. But just their mindset in terms of offense and what they're trying to do is just night and day difference. And I think Marvin Harrison would kind of be wasted on the Michigan offense. He would make them obviously significantly better. He would make J.J. McCarthy significantly better. But also, it's like Ted Ginn on the Jim Tressel offenses instead of the Ryan Day offense. What would Santonio Holmes do on a Ryan Day offense? What would Terry Glenn do on an a Ryan Day offense? I would kill to see Ted Ginn on a Ryan Day offense. But he played when he played, and they did not make the most of him as a player because of how they ran their offense. That feels like that would be Marvin Harrison on a Jim Harbaugh offense to at least some degree. They're a little more wide open than Tressel was, but still.
Remember Donovan Peoples-Jones didn't have a 100-yard day until the NFL. Like, he never had one at Michigan, and that was the number one receiver in the nation. Now, like I said, they've had 6 between 2 players since, but neither of those guys are Donovan Peoples-Jones.
No, that was one where he went there and it was just like, there's such talent. You should not be more productive in the NFL than you are in college. That is a serious problem if you were more, because guess what? The competition's better in the NFL. And, Donovan Peoples-Jones was on the Browns. It's not like he was on something, he was not playing with Tom Brady. He was playing with Baker Mayfield. Like, come on, you should not have better stats playing in the NFL with Baker Mayfield than you did in college. That is a big something is very wrong here. Speaking of things are very wrong here, let's talk about the Penn State offense for a minute. What do you think of? Well, first of all, did you see the press conference where James Franklin said that? Made a point that Sean Clifford was named the Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week, and then just kind of paused for a moment to let that settle in, like, Big Ten Player of the Week offensively, Sean Clifford. Like just a little like, yeah, you people are all booing him and telling me I'm an idiot for playing him. And Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week.
They don't give that to just anybody.
Not just anybody. No, and Sean Clifford is he is very much an is what he is kind of guy. Where he is, there are things he does really well. There are things he does not do really well, and. How would you grade him as a passer? He's not nearly as toolsy as JJ McCarthy is. Is he as good of a passer? Not as good of a passer as JJ McCarthy? And then, as far as the guys around him, how would you grade the skill talent around him as compared to Michigan's?
My problem with Sean Clifford is you never know what you're going to get. You look at his last 3 games, I'll give you as an example. Northwestern, he was 10 of 20. Against Michigan, he was 7 of 19 for 36.8%. And then Minnesota, as Big Ten Player of the Week, he was 23 of 31, 74%. So over the course of 3 games, you completed half your passes, then you complete like a third of your passes, then you complete 3/4 of your passes. You never know. And so you can't expect him to be consistent enough to win more than one game. It's like he can't do it 2 times in a row. Now, we just saw him do it against Minnesota. You're asking him to do it a second time against the best team that maybe the best team that they've faced to this point. They'll probably tell you differently depending on how the game goes. But we've seen this for 5 years now, where at some point, if he doesn't do something to harm the team, it's a surprise, or he just can't do enough to maintain. And with that offensive line, it's hard to blame him. Lack of running game, hard to blame him. He's had some weapons at receiver, but not enough. It's like it's Jahan Dotson and then a couple of other guys who aren't quite ready yet. And this year, you bring Mitchell Tinsley in over from Western Kentucky, so you got him. You got Parker Washington. You've got some things. They're getting Brenton Strange, the tight end, involved. So they've got a good nucleus, but you just never know if you're going to get 7 of 19 or 23 of 31. And to me, that's my biggest problem with Sean Clifford. And he can keep plays alive. Sometimes that's great. Sometimes it's not so great. He can do a lot of things, and that's the frustrating part. I compare him to bad Brian Lewerke at Michigan State, because he had like that redshirt freshman year where he was really, really good, and it's like, oh my, he is going to light the Big Ten on fire next year, and Michigan State's going to be the beneficiary of it. And he goes from like 27 touchdowns and 2,700 yards one year to being just the worst quarterback you've ever seen. Sean Clifford is too much of a mystery to expect him to have the answers more than a couple times a year against decent opponents. To do it 2 weeks in a row, I think, is asking a lot, and it's something that he's not accustomed to doing.
To me, and I'm really not trying to be mean here, and I hope this doesn't come across as mean, but to me, Sean Clifford is playing in the wrong division of the Big Ten. Like, does he feel like a Big Ten West quarterback to you?
That's a good one, where he can do multiple things. He's not great at anything, but can do a lot of stuff and can win you some games. I mean, he can win you some games in the Big Ten East, but yeah, that's interesting. That's a good one.
It feels like he can get you to a certain point, and it's kind of where, I mean, not coincidentally, it's kind of where Penn State has ended up a lot of the recent years, where it's like 9 wins. Maybe it's 10 wins if things break right. Maybe it's 8 wins if things aren't great. But he can get you to a certain point, and then there's a certain cap, and this is like the half a step down from JT Barrett kind of thing, where it was like JT Barrett could get Ohio State to a certain point, and the talent around him was better than what Clifford has around him right now. But you got him to a certain point, and then you couldn't quite get over the hump. When you faced a Clemson, when you faced you went on the road to a really hostile environment, a lot of times it just didn't quite get there. And you look at the Ohio State offense with Justin Fields or Dwayne Haskins or C.J. Stroud since J.T. Barrett left, and you've had that next step, you've had that next gear, and I feel like you kind of have he's kind of Penn State's version of J.T. Barrett, but just like a half a step down, where he's been there for so long, and he's a respected leader, and he's a consistent winner to a certain point, and it's just you can't quite get him over the hump. But this feels like this weekend with a bad offensive line, with very, very young talented, but very, very young running backs who are running behind that bad offensive line. You mentioned Tinsley, you mentioned Parker Washington, you mentioned Brenton Strange. Those are three solid but not like spectacular receivers. There's not a Jahan Dotson on this year's Penn State team, I don't think. It just feels like they're not going to be able to run the ball. Clifford will be able to make some plays maybe with his legs, or maybe extend some plays with his legs, and you're going to hit one or two downfield because the receivers are good enough that you're going to hit some decent passing plays, but not be able to do it real consistently. To me, Michigan is substantially better at the running back, substantially better at the offensive line, better at the quarterback position, and probably similar-ish at tight end and wide receiver. Is that a fair assessment of where those two programs are right now?
Yeah, and you'd probably give Michigan the advantage at tight end if they had Eric All. But yeah, I would agree with that. The JT Barrett thing, I'm wondering if what could he have done at like Purdue? Say like the 2019 Purdue with David Bell and Rondale Moore. Like I would like to see him in that offense where you've got that running threat at quarterback with all of the receivers, and he's good enough to get the ball to those guys. Xander Horvath running the ball behind JT Barrett. That would be an interesting offense. So just, one of those things that as we set up fantasy teams, maybe that's one, JT Barrett with the Boilermakers. But overall, Penn State, the offense, I feel like the line of scrimmage at times, the pocket is going to get overwhelmed for Sean Clifford, and I do think he's going to throw up quite a few 50-50 balls, whether that's 3, 4, 5, and hope to come down with 2, 3, 4 of those, knowing that you're not going to get them all, but if you don't catch one, maybe it's a 15-yard first down. Maybe it's a pass interference. So I do think they're going to throw some up there, try to get some chunks, because it's going to be hard, I think, for them to move the ball, 5 yards on first down, 3 yards on second, and then pick up that third down somehow. I think that's going to be tough for them.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball consistently, which means then you're going to have to be able to move the ball through the air consistently, and you can't just check down, because, eventually Ohio State figures that out and sits on that stuff. So you're going to have to be able to stretch the field a little bit, and we'll see. You've seen teams have isolated success against Ohio State, just heaving it deep and doing the old Penn State deep state thing. And to your point, yeah, I think you hit a couple of those, you hit 2, 3 of those, and you get some points out of that, and that's great. But just how are they going to be able to consistently move the ball? I don't know that. What point total do you say? Would you say you feel pretty comfortable saying Penn State will reach? That Penn State is at like 75% likely to reach some point total. Is that 17? Is that 20? Is it 24? Where do you think they're like 75% likely? Like outside of a real edge case where it's like, oh, they had 4 interceptions or something. Like, what are you thinking in terms of like a score for them? That's like I would expect them, barring something a little weird, I would expect them to get to this number.
17 was the first number that came into my mind, where they do have enough weapons to get there. And really, if Iowa can score 10 on you, however they did it, you got to expect at least one more touchdown from Penn State. But yeah, like I think if Ohio State is over 24, I feel pretty good. But where are you on Penn State scoring 27-28 in terms of is that a 30% chance? I mean, does Ohio State need 31 here for you to feel 99% confident? 99% confident. I would say 31 to 35. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball consistently enough to be able to just kind of methodically move down the field. So you can hit some big plays, and okay, you're going to get 17. 17 was exactly the number I had in my head when I asked you that question. So yeah, I think we'll have to formulate a score prediction at some point this week. But just I'm kind of like thinking right now,
mid to high 30s to 17, 20, something like that. And then, if you have a pick six, if you have a short field or a block punt or something, okay, then you get another touchdown of that. And then you're at the 24, maybe you get to the high 20s. But, if Ohio State scores 31 points, I would say they're about 90% likely to win. And if they score 38 points, they're about 98% likely to win. And, you would really have to take something pretty surprising. It would take something pretty surprising and probably multiple defensive or special team scores for me to see Penn State getting to 40. Maybe
multiple overtimes as well, Tom. By the way, have you seen the over under for Northwestern and Iowa?
I have not. I'm just trying to think through like some of the Army Navy over unders are usually kind of like the lowest, and those will usually end up in like the 34 or so range. 40 is usually like, normie kind of like, wow, that's a low line. Anything into the like upper 30s is kind of like, wow, that's really low. Anything below 35 is some real sicko stuff. So I'm going to say 33.
Right now it is 35.5. And I think that may have gone up because I swear I saw it on Monday at like 31.5.
Oh.
And I can't believe it's actually gone up from that, because 31.5 seems like you're expecting somebody to 21 to 20 to 12, something like that. You think they can score that many points? You think both teams can get into double figures? Are you crazy?
17-14. No, sorry. Let's be realistic. There's going to be more field goals than that. So 18 to 15 gets you to 33. So, man, that is. If it was really at 31, I literally do not think I have ever seen a point total that low for a game. Like 34 is already like notably, historically anomalously low. 30, that's just, I mean, well deserved, but also, whoa.
Yes. Anything else, Tom, before we get out of here? We still have questions to go. We just don't want to keep the listeners that long. Anything else before we get out of here?
Nope, just looking forward to a fun weekend trip to State College. And if you want to follow along with us, we'll do our usual. We're planning to do a Friday evening, afternoon live show. Have our Saturday pregame show, Saturday live postgame show, all that great stuff. All at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. So make sure you are subscribed there, ring that bell, hit that thumbs up, leave us a positive comment. And then if you are listening to this as a podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating and review. Write out a little review for us. That helps us as well. Talk about how wonderful we are. It makes the drive with Tony so much more bearable if he has positive reviews to read on your podcast platform of choice.
And the reason that is because I just have you and Kevin telling me how terrible I am at stuff the entire car ride. So if I've got something to read to counter that feedback, it's always nice to balance it out and make myself feel just even rather than a total heel like you guys make me feel. But yeah, the worst though is when it's just comments about Tom. Tom is great. And it's like, I am also here. But whatever, just, I guess for the algorithms, whatever comments, positive, great. Anything is better than nothing, I suppose. So thank you for that. Reminder, check us out at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Speaking of subscriptions, why don't you subscribe there? Check us out. Try for a month, see what you think. I bet you will stay on and maybe then sign up for an annual if you want. But that will do it for this episode. I want to thank you all for joining us, and we will talk to you guys later.